Guys and girls, welcome back to the vlog. My name is Gary Blackwood. Very quick introduction today. My Hustler live stream appearance has been delayed by a week. Wednesday the 1st of November, 25, 50, 100, cannot wait. The giveaway has been delayed by a week as well. Still going to run it just 1 week later, but I am going to run a giveaway today, Friday the 27th of October. I'll be playing 5-10 Match the Stack in Texas at the Lodge Club. Really love it there. Really excited to be playing there. Full details on how to enter that 1% giveaway later in this video. On to today's session. We're playing 5-5-10 at the Hustler. Really fun session. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Alright, that's enough giveaway chat for today. Let's get into today's session. We're playing 5-5-10, but the game is going to start a little later than usual, so I'm in the 5-5 streets while I wait. I actually didn't put the camera on for this 5-5 session, but I did manage to win $700 in total, mainly by stacking a guy with a flop set of fives on an ace-high board. It felt very weird playing poker and not pointing my cards at the camera every 10 seconds, but hey-ho. Into the 5-5-10 we go after a few hours. We're starting short-handed here, and our first hand of note comes in the first couple of minutes when I'm in the big blind with 10-8 of spades. The $20 straddle is on here, so I raise it on up to $60. The straddle defends. He's a vlog watcher from New York City. We go heads up to Jack 10-6 with 2 hearts and 1 spade. I decide not to c-bet my hand here. I check to the straddle, who bets out for $75. I make the call with a white chip. He throws me a purple chip. Nice exchange from us there. To the turn, it is the 9 of clubs. I've now got what we call the idiot end of the straight draw. I check, and I'm really happy to see my opponent check it on back. The river is the queen of hearts. Terrible run out for me here. I don't think I'm ahead very often at all, so I turn my third pair into a bluff. I bet out for $210, and he very quickly folds. I'm all proud of myself as I say to him, "Good run out to bluff."
I mean, how could I ever be bluffing there, you know?
Alright, next up I'm in the $20 straddle with an ace and a king of the unsuited variety. Under the gun is raised to $60, it falls round to the big blind, and he then puts in the re-raise to $175. Now online I'm cold 4-betting every 15 to 20 minutes, but it rarely happens live. This is one of those rare occasions where I get to cold 4-bet. I make it $425 to go. Under the gun gets out of the way, action is back on the middle blind. If he calls, I'm happy to see a flop. If he shoves, well, I'm kind of happy to call it off, but after a minute of tanking, he decides to fold. Thought he was going to jam it in there, but he lets it go, and I'm 2 for 2 so far today. Okay, next up, I'm in the middle blind with pocket nines. The cutoff is raised to $60. He seems pretty ABC so far, nothing too crazy from him. I wouldn't mind a 3-bet here, but given I've got no reads on this player, I decide to just call. We're going to go heads up to the flop here, which is 7-6 deuce rainbow. Pretty good start here for me. When I check, my opponent decides to check it back. To the turn we go, it is an 8. I've now got an overpair and an open-ended straight draw, so I decide to bet out here for $100. My opponent thinks for a few seconds and then makes the call. To the river, it is a 10, which gives me the straight. I decide to keep firing for value. I bet $260. After a few seconds, my opponent actually announces raise. He takes a few seconds constructing the raise and then raises to $760. I'm of course never folding. I snap call, and he immediately grimaces, which tells me he was making a move. So I just show my hand. I turn over my nines. He nods, he mucks, and I am dragging in yet another pot for the day. Off to a really good start here. Okay, next up, a new player to the game sits down. He's another vlog watcher. The straddle is still on, and the new player raises to $50. I am in the cutoff with ace-4 of diamonds, and it's his first hand, so I'm going to put him under pressure already. I make it $150 to go. It falls back around to him, and he makes the call. We're going heads up to the flop, which is a very interesting deuce, deuce, deuce. He's going to have a lot of flop full houses here, but I can put a lot of pressure on those by the river, so I decide to c-bet here for $165, which is of course around half pot. We can maybe go bigger here, but I think half pot is the smallest that we want to go. My opponent makes the call. To the turn, it is a dreamy ace. I decide to keep betting here, get max value from those flop full houses, but I decide to bet small now. I go for 1/3 pot. My opponent thinks for a second and makes the call. To the river we go. It is a 9. I look as nervous as I can for a few seconds and then move all in, trying to get value from hands like 10s, jacks, maybe pocket 8s. But my opponent absolutely snap calls, hoping he doesn't have pocket 9s here as I turn over my hand. But it's a chop. He's got ace queen offsuit. It's almost certainly going to be a chop here, but it would have been really nasty to run into pocket 9s here. But yeah, we chop this one up. Alright, next up, I am in the big blind with the one and only pocket aces. Under the gun is raised to $25. The small blind makes the call, and then the middle blind squeezes to $130. Beautiful spot for me here, as I put in my second cold 4-bet of the day to $300. Folds all the way around to the middle blind, who does not shove, but he doesn't fold either. He makes the call. We're going to go heads up to the flop here. It is king, queen 7 with 2 hearts. This is a pretty good flop here for me to get value. He's going to have a lot of one pair hands that have flopped something. maybe some gut shots, some straight draws, some flush draws. So I decided to see bet here for $200, and he snap folds. A little disappointing, to be honest. I was hoping to get some value out of him, but it's not to be. All right, on to the next one we go. I'm in the cutoff with ace jack offsuit. The hijack is limp for $10, and I put in the raise to $50. It folds round to the big blind, who makes the call, and then the limper actually folds. We go heads up to ace queen deuce with 2 spades. Really good flop for me here, lots of value to be had, so I decide to c bet for $75. Could maybe go bigger, actually. My opponent makes the call. To the turn we go. It is an offsuit 6. A very clear value bet for me here. When he checks to me again, I bet out for $200, and again, my opponent makes a pretty quick call. I don't think he's making a quick call with a second or third pair type hand. It's very likely he's got a top pair or a flush draw type hand. To the river, it is the 10 of spades. Really don't love this. All those flush draws get there. Even ace 10 gets there. And what's worse, my opponent hasn't checked to me. He is deep in the tank. After a minute or so of tanking, he does eventually check, and I snap check back. He turns over king queen offsuit. Really glad he didn't lead the river there, because it would have looked really, really strong if he'd led into me there, and I probably would have folded versus a bet of like 75% pot, but no harm done. I am dragging in another pot today. All right, giveaway time. If you want to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is 1, sub to the channel, very, very important, and 2, comment below how much you think I'm going to win on the Lodge live stream, playing 5-10 match at stack. Everyone buys in for like 4K. Just put a comment below, say like 2,500, something like that, and one lucky winner will win 1%. I will do a minimum of $100 as the giveaway, because I don't want to give away like $3 or whatever. So $100 minimum, but we'll do 1% if I end up winning like 20K or something. Yeah, back to the action. All right, next up is a fun one. I am on the button with 8-5 of spades. It folds round to me, and I raise it on up to $35. I'm not raising 8-4 of spades. This is the bottom of my opening range, and the small blind is going to put in the 3-bet, but it's only to $90. I feel very priced in here with this suited semi-connected hand, but it's the type of situation that I get myself into a lot of trouble with, so I'm going to proceed with caution here. Heads up to the flop we go. It is ace queen deuce with 2 high spades, which means it's less likely my opponent has got 2 high spades in his hand, and I'm not that worried about getting flush over flush. He decides to see bet here for $75. Nothing else for me to do here. I make the call. To the turn, it is a 5. I've now got a pair to go with my flush draw. This feels like one of those silly spots that I always get myself into. My opponent bets again for $125. Again, nothing else I can do here other than just call. To the river, it is a red 6. This is the brick of all bricks, and even though the river bet from my opponent is only $100, it's super tempting to call, but I tell myself I'm not going to win here with 4th pair, and I just make the folds. He actually shows the camera that he's got ace 10 offsuit. I absolutely love this. Everyone that I play with at the Hustler is super friendly about me vlogging. They all take an interest in it, which I really appreciate. I go ahead and tell him that he was way ahead, which makes him laugh as he drags in the pot. All right, moving on now, and I'm under the gun here with Jack 9 of diamonds. Jack 9 of hearts is actually my favorite hand, but Jack 9 of diamonds will do for now. I raise it on up to $30. It folds round to the middle blind, who makes the call. We're going to go heads up to the flop here. It is 8-5 deuce with 2 diamonds. Really nice start for me here with the 2 overcards and the flush draw and the backdoor straight draw. So I decide to see bet here for $50. My opponent isn't put off. He makes the call. To the turn, it is a 9. I've turned top pair, and I've got the flush draw, and I want to keep betting, so I bet again for $75. This is an exploitative size. I'm sure the solver probably wants to bet bigger, but I've turned top pair. I've got a flush draw to go with it. If I am behind, I don't want to call a massive raise. I just want to get a little bit of value before checking back on the river. That's exactly what happens. My opponent makes the call. To the river we go. It is a board pairing deuce. My opponent actually leads into me here for $160. I of course don't love it, but I'm not folding for such a small size. I snap him off, and once again he grimaces, tells me I've got the best hand with this grimace, so I just turn my hand over. He nods and mucks. This has been a very smooth day so far. Lots of medium-sized pots coming my way. All right, next up is a very fun hand. The straddle has not been on today, but it is randomly on in this hand, and for once it's not me that's doing the random straddling. I'm in the middle blind with king jack of diamonds. It's folded round to me, and I raise it on up to $70. The big blind makes the call. The straddle folds. We're going heads up to the flop here, kind of deep with the big blind, and it comes down ace 6 deuce all diamonds. What a flop for me. I've got the nuts right now. I decide to c-bet with the nuts. I bet $75, and my opponent makes the call. To the turn we go. It is the 4 4 of hearts. I was a little worried that heart was a diamond and it would have kind of killed my action, but it's just a heart, so I decided to keep betting. I bet $210, and imagine my surprise when my opponent raises me to $500. Now, I've played a fair bit with this guy. He's a pretty good player, but I think his range here is either going to be a value hand or the nut flush draw, and obviously I've got the nuts, so he can't have the nut flush draw, so I think he's got value, so I decide to play for it all, and I move all in for $2,300. I am so happy that he calls me really quickly. I turn my hand over as he's asking if I want to go once or twice, and imagine his disappointment as he sees the nuts and then turns over his own hand. He's got 10-8 of diamonds. What a cooler this is. This is a $5,000 pot, and unfortunately for my opponent, he's got it in with 0% equity. This is a very nasty cooler. There's not much he can do about it, but I am delighted to be dragging in this huge pot here. All right, on to the final hand of what's been a very smooth day indeed today. I am in the small blind with ace-9 of spades. The hijack is limped for $10. It folds round to me, and I decide to put in the raise to $50. The middle blind folds, the big blind folds, but the hijack sticks around to make the call. We're going to go heads up to the flop here. It is 10-8-6, all black, but only a backdoor flush draw for me. I decide to check to my opponent, happy to see him check back. To the turn we go. It is the jack of diamonds. I've now got an open-ended straight draw, so I decide to bet out for $75. My opponent makes the call. I'm going to give up on the river unless I improve, but when the king of hearts rolls off, it feels like a pretty good river to keep barreling, so I decide to try one last time to win the pot here at about $180. My opponent thinks for a few seconds and then folds. It's really unfortunate for him because I have been value betting him all day and he has paid me off every time, and the one time that I've got a bluff, he actually folds. It's been a very smooth day. I've barely lost a pot. Lots of medium-sized pots coming my way, and that huge pot with the flush over flush. After 5 or 6 hours of grinding, I decided I was finished for the day. I tapped the table and headed to the cashier, up $3,870 for the day. All right, troops, that is going to do it for this episode. Really hope you enjoyed the show. Running really well so far this trip. Can't complain. Flush over flush the guy for all the marbles. Yeah, really awesome stuff. If you enjoyed the show, please do click that sub button. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. Until next time, take it easy.